G'day, mate. Welcome to Factorio Friday Facts 282 with 17 or 0.17 insight. And I've got Mojo with me again. Hey, mate.
Hello. What's up?
Well, for Valentine's, I really wanted Factorio, and Factorio wasn't my Valentine. We're a couple of days late. On the bright side, it took like 7 seasons for winter to come, and it looks like it's only taken a couple of months for version 17 to finally show up. So I think Woob works faster than the Game of Thrones script team, maybe?
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Hopefully somebody in the comments gets that. Anyway, we got a new Friday Facts. It's an important one. It has very big, bold letters. 0.17 is in sight. Doesn't say a release date.
We have a date.
Well, we don't.
Most importantly. It's true, actually. They speculate a date, we should say.
We have an indication of it'll be after this date. And
we have an indication that may or may not speculate, possibly, maybe, that we'll have a date of a release.
Yeah. If you could have just said, you could have said not going to be here between now and next Friday. Yep, I would have agreed, because that's pretty much what this Friday Fact says. But let's go through the finer points. So, the release plan for 17. This is by Covrex. This is by the big boss. This is the one who makes the actual decision on when 17 drops. So, not all of the things originally planned to be done were done in 17. Surprise!
I knew that.
Yeah, we all saw that coming, yep. But we left any non-essential stuff for later, so we won't postpone the release any further. The plan is that next week will be the dedicate the office to playtesting and bug fixing. Many would argue we could just release instantly and let the players find the bugs for us. But we want to first fix most of the obvious problems in-house to avoid too many duplicate bug reports and chaos after release. Also, some potential bugs like save corruptions are much more easily worked on in-house. If the playtesting goes well, we will let you know next Friday. And if if it is the case, we aim to release the week starting the 25th of February. So
week starting.
If it goes well, and if we'll aim for that week sometime, which
basically means it could be March, potentially. It could be the 1st of March, which I think is Feb 30, isn't it?
Well, Feb 29th, Feb 30th, yeah. We're aiming for the week of the 25th. There's only the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th. It's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If they get the first half of the week, the first half of the week, they'll fall in February. If they get the second half of the week, they're going to fall into March. So, yeah. I don't know. A lot of us have seen this coming. A lot of us see that RCDing, one of the devs, actually streams Factorio development work. And if you've been watching the last week or so, his streams have been getting later and later and later in the day.
Yes.
And a lot of us assumed, okay, you're moving your time zone from US time, because he's based out of the US, to European time zone, because you're going to go to the head office for a week or so to bug fix and play the game. So, yeah, we all assumed that a couple of days ago.
So what it really is that he basically doesn't sleep. He just does code.
Yeah,
and then
pretty much.
Occasionally gets the urge to eat KFC, green beans, and then does more code.
Okay.
Then does more code, and then maybe sleeps.
Yeah. Our sitting is a coding machine.
He's a strange one.
I've seen 6-hour streams of just nothing but code. But yeah, it means that maybe the end of Feb will have a version 17, but no confirmations. That's the important thing. There are no confirmations yet. So, after the release is done, the new plan is, since a lot of things we'd like to do before we can call 17 good enough, we will simply push new things into 17 release as time goes on. Even if 17 becomes stable in a reasonable time, which is if, because 16 had 51 minor versions, and 17's got a lot more work in it, so I'm willing to bet.
If they can go for gold with even more.
Look, I wonder if we can get all the way to 100, but, we'll see. So even if 17 becomes stable in a reasonable time, we'd still like to push things on top of it. We can still make experimental/stable version numbers inside of 17. Most of the things shouldn't be big enough to make the game generally unstable. I've heard countless times I propose they'll make small, frequent releases of what we've added, and this will probably be reality after 17 for some time. The small releases will mainly contain final looks at behavior of the new GUI screens as they'll be finished, new graphics, new sounds and sound system tweaks, mini tutorial additions and tweaks. There's actually quite a large change to our procedure, and there are many ways we'll be able to maximize the effectiveness of smaller and more regular content updates. Mojo, have not we said this for a while?
Probably.
Yeah. Like we've had, HD Power Pole's been out for a while.
Yeah.
They could have slipped in.
That's a graphics thing that could have gone out at any time.
Yeah, that's the thing. And there was one that came out like just after, like even before 16 went stable at 51. It was back when it was in the 20 odds, and it was that stable release.
Concrete.
Was it Concrete that came out?
Concrete.
In a Friday Facts with new images? And
I think so, yeah.
Never got into 16. It's been held over for 17.
Not Refined Concrete. No, but Refined Concrete found its way into 17 at some, or 16 at some.
Yeah, there's been a couple that have been slid in with 16, but I want to say maybe Gun Turrets or.
Oh yeah, the Gun Turrets has been pushed back to 17.
Yeah, Gun Turrets. Not Chem Planets, not Refineries. Radars. Radars is another one. That came out ages ago. Yeah! I'm sure Radar's got little... Or maybe it's the Gun Turrets I'm thinking about.
It might be the Gun Turrets, because the HD Radar was 15.
Really? It doesn't... Okay. I think it needs a new HR pass. Anyway, so the GUI progress. And this is compared to, what, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago. We've got the same green ticks we've got last time. We've got a couple of yellow ticks. Which, that's the progress since the last time we had this little graph. And you can see they have made some progress, but there's still a pile missing.
A lot going on.
Yeah, the blueprint library is still, missing.
Everyone's still probably avoiding it.
Character screen, so that's all the I assume the GUI around the character, or around the main screen. Train technology. I don't know. Character screen. Probably it's just the inventory. The shortcut bar is still missing as well. Help overlay is missing. Manage install mods missing.
What's the yellow tick mean? Did it actually give a diagram?
Yeah, it's down the bottom. Newly finished things since Friday Fact 272.
Things that have changed. Okay.
So that's in 5 weeks, we've added that many ticks. Yeah.
Oh, I do know they're working on it, because...
they're definitely working on it. A lot of the teams are working on the GUI at the moment. So they are making progress. It's just...
I mean, you see manage install mods by our seating hasn't changed at all, but we know he's working on it a lot.
We know he's working on it a lot. But actually, this came up... So Muppet actually sent me a message about this just the other day, or last night, because he was watching us eating stream and confirmed, and devs, if you're listening, this is really, really important. The new implementation is, if you go to join a server, your game will go and see that the server has mods, go get the mods from the Factorio webpage, download them, restart Factorio. Then, when you go join the same server again, if the mod settings are different from the default settings, it'll then download those settings and restart again. And then you can finally join the server. And my simple request, and I'm not a coder, I'm not a programmer in any way, shape, or form, but it should be able to go to join the server and go, okay, I'm going to get the mod settings.dat file from the server. At the same time, I go off to the mod portal and get all the mods, and then just restart once, rather than restarting twice.
Sounds sensible. It's probably not going to happen.
Look, it's one of those things I'd love to see, because I run the community maps, and every single time I change there's guaranteed I'm not going to run the mods as default. Every single time they're going to have some tweak, some change, something in there. And it means that people have to restart one more time. And it's just a little bit of extra frustration. That and saving passwords. Save passwords for a favorite server.
Oh, yeah, you can't even get saving passwords.
They're my two little requests. Because at the moment, if I update the mods on the server, I don't need to, but I do set up a Google Drive with a mod pack. So that's all the mods conveniently saved up with the mod settings.dat, all that sort of stuff that people can download and just extract in their mod folder. On top of that, if people want to go download them manually from the webpage, which is fine, also put in a second copy of each individual mod in case one of our mods is older than what's on the mod portal, because the mod's updated and I haven't updated the server yet, and the mod settings.dat file again that people can download manually and replace their manual, the one in their game. And it's a nightmare running any sort of server with mods, and I'm hoping 17 fixes that. And it does technically, it's better than what we've got, but it could be so much better.
Just imagine restarting twice if you didn't have caching enabled. And you had a lot of graphical mods. It'd take a long time.
I don't have caching enabled because I have so many standalone installs, and I should. But again, it's a setting that's hidden in an ini file rather than just being a tick box in one of the in one of the options pages. Again, devs, can we just add a tick box somewhere in any of the graphics options pages? Just enable cache, done. Yep.
Well, with the graphics things coming, that might change anyway.
It might change, but it has been covered, it has been questioned, and it was in, I think, a Reddit or a forum post that isn't a setting, and it's in the ini file, and I commented right there and then, can we please just have a tick box? And yeah. Anyway, so there's lots still to do. New games missing, menu structures missing, main screen chat is missing. We're not even at the UI mock-up stage, so I assume they'll probably get pushed till 17's out sometime. So yeah, there's some work to be done before 17 can be released, and some work that's getting it pushed for after 17 comes out, and we'll see them come up as they come. So yeah, Blueprint Library, which is another massive change.
I know they've been avoiding this one for a while.
They have, and we already know from, again, us eating streams that these are mock-ups. They're not in the game. This is how the GUI is meant to look, subject to change. So the Blueprint Library is split into several steps. The reason is there's a big motivation to integration with the new quick bar. Final version was shown a couple of weeks ago. In time for 17, whilst the other changes can be done afterwards. So the thing with the quick bar is it's quite a big change to one of the most used tools in the games. People don't like change, even when it's for the better. I can agree with that. To minimize the hate of the change, we need to sell it properly. By that, we should be providing as many of the possible aspects of the new quick bar at the time of its introduction. So give new stuff to people once rather than give you something new and then change it a few weeks later. So the change that's already implemented and working for 17 is the ability to put blueprints books into the quick bar in a way that quick bar is linked directly to the blueprint library window. So you don't need to have the physical blueprints in your inventory. The other change is that picking up a blueprint from the blueprint library and then pressing Q will just dismiss it instead of silently putting it in your inventory, which are big changes, and I love them.
That's significant. Right.
I love them. Yeah, it means that I can just keep a blueprint library. I can update just those blueprints. And I don't have to worry about my copies of duplicates, of triplicates, of
quadruplicates.
Stuff. Yeah. In addition, so the first thing is the GUI, which is a personal library, a game library, and we can see not only do we have blueprints, we've got blueprint books. We've also got deconstruction planners, and I really well. I'm assuming they're decon planners rather than somebody's picked the icon and made it red.
I have a feeling it's been not that they've just picked an icon, that they've copy and pasted the text, because there's two 140 megawatt tileable solar decon planners, which makes no sense.
Oh, okay, there are two. 140 megawatt.
Even if you go look at the very bottom one, there's
a few of them. Yeah. It's fine. Okay. Either way, a decon planner that is awesome. I'm really hoping I can put a decon planner in a book. That's really important. At least to me, it means I can stagger my blueprints. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, deconstruct shit you don't need. Stage 5, add blueprint this bit on top to upgrade things like oil. So yeah, we'll also allow the switch between grid view and list view. It provides mainly a nice way to see longer names of the blueprint. We notice that players try to put a large amount of info in a blueprint in its name. So we're planning to add the possibility to write a textual description of the blueprint. And I get it, but I don't know. When I look
see, I think.
When I look at Mojo's Rail blueprints, version 3, version 4, whatever version we're up to, I'm just like, I just want the last version. I've used them enough that I know that it's going to have all the different blueprints I want for Rail, and that's it. I don't need a description that says exactly what different junctions you do and don't have inside that blueprint.
If it needs a big long description, then the design of the blueprint's probably flawed.
Yeah, look, I could guess maybe if you're doing something like Factorio prints, where it's an open sharing of blueprints, and you don't have that communication with the player who made the blueprints, maybe a description might help. Like if I do a make almost everything, and I do like, here's blueprint 1, and then you paste blueprint 2 over the top, then blueprint 3 over the top, and then 4 you use a deconstruction planner to get rid of all the standard chests to change them over to passive providers, or something like that. That might be the point. You need a description to actually specify that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea in principle. I can't see myself using it. Maybe for blueprints I share through the channel and that sort of stuff. But yeah, honestly, I can't.
Very limited use case.
Yeah. The biggest change allowed to put blueprint books into blueprint books, allowing for better organization. Basically like a directory structure. When a blueprint book is opened up, we plan to show you the current location so the player knows exactly what's going on. Now this I like.
That's interesting. A book in a book. That means all of my rail blueprints can all go in one big book.
Yeah, you can have Mojo's big book of rails and do all your training. You've got all your train track, all the intersections, all the stations, all the stackers. Again, for something like Rails, where there is like 10 different pieces of it, I like it. For smelters, I could say the same. Here's your yellow belt, here's your red belt, here's your steel furnace, here's your very, very basic burner city with burner inserters. And you can just have a blueprint book with just smelters, which you could nest inside here's the magic blueprint book that does everything from yellow belt through to blue belt.
Base.
Through,
you don't actually need to give the different grades of belt anymore.
No, you don't. Not with Upgrade Planner.
Because you just give the book with the upgrade planner in it.
That's the other thing. I want to be able to put an upgrade planner in a blueprint book, because that again is going to be really, really important. That I can say, okay, all the burner inserters need to go, and we need to have yellow inserters because we've teched up that far that yellow inserters are now the new norm. And then again, when you go to steel smelters, you want to have blue inserters, because we're now doing it with red belt. But yeah, lots of changes. I like them mostly, I think.
Yeah, it all steps in the right direction.
And then we have a new one, the Hand, which I actually thought was a villain from Inspector Gadget.
Adam's
for a moment.
Family?
No, well, there's that's not a villain. That's part of the family. No. The Hand is the bad guys in the Iron Fist, the Marvel comic, which is horrible on Netflix, but we'll leave that there. Anyway, has it ever happened to you that when you have robots trying to put things in your full inventory, and then you pick up an item from your inventory to build with it, and then you can't put it back as the diligent robots just filled up the last slot in your inventory with whatever they're trying to give you? I'm pretty sure that's happened to all of us at least once.
Happens to all of us at all the time.
Yeah. And then,
if you've used personal bots, then it's happened, generally.
Oh, look, man, even Logibots. I've walked into a base.
Yeah, Logibots will do that too.
Yeah. We actually mentioned this when they were talking about changing the quick bar to be a shortcut to everything else, and therefore you had nowhere to dump crap that you didn't need, or be able to swap it out to a chest. So then you could open a chest and dump crap in because the bots are delivering you stuff non-stop. Anyway, on to the Friday facts. So it was annoying thing in 16 from time to time, but with new quick,
From only time to time.
yeah, it was annoying every single time it happened. Your skill was graded by how often you didn't let it happen to you.
I've perfected the tricks for avoiding it now.
Yeah. It started to happen even more, but now you only have one inventory and no reserve slots in the quick bar. To solve this, we added the principle of the hand. When you pick up something from the inventory, the hand icon appears on the slot. As long as you hold the thing in your cursor, the hand stays there and prevents other things from being inserted in there. This way, you should be able to always be able to return the currently selected item to your inventory as long as you didn't get it from an external source like a chest. And we can see we're holding belt here, and there's a pretty little hand over our 500 belt down on the quick bar.
Yes, a very crudely, probably GIMP drawn.
Yeah, it's fine, and it'll come out as part of the GUI pass or graphics pass as part of the 17 updates. But I like it. I assume it works the same. Well, of course it works the same from the inventory because the quick bar is just shortcuts. So yeah, it should work the same. I'm trying to think of where it would fault. If I empty a chest that's already full into my inventory, no, because that won't fault it. No, I like it. I can't think of anywhere it could fault.
Just it stops that slot being used.
Yeah. You'll still have the inventory slots full, and the bots are trying to shove stuff in even though there's no room. That's still going to be an ongoing problem. But at least you're not stuck in a situation where you can't take that single iron chest, steel chest, whatever it is, dump it down and put all the wood in it and then shoot it. So yeah, problem solved. I like the hand. And then we go on to terrain generation. And this is something, terrain generation and resource generation has been I guess a differing topic from like 12 all the way up to the current version of Factorio, where everybody likes their particular flavor.
Yeah, their particular implementation.
Yeah. Everybody has different opinion on what makes a good Factorio world. I've been working on several changes for 17, but overarching theme is to make the map generation options seem more intuitive and more powerful. This was talked about somewhat earlier back in Friday Facts 258 regarding ore placements. Since then, we found more stuff to fix. Doesn't surprise me.
Funny that.
Yeah, so biter bases. In 16, the science control for biter bases didn't have much effect. The frequency control changed the frequency, but also to increase the size of bases, which wasn't generally what people wanted, which was so true. You could either have big bases miles apart, or little bases dotted everywhere. There was no in between.
Arguably, it is doing exactly what it says on the tin as far as the noise generator concerns. The problem is you're controlling the noise generator directly. You need some kind of intermediary to turn it into something that's actually understandable.
The problem is, it does what it says on the box, but what it says in the map generation doesn't translate to what's on the box. You know, you've got biter bases, big, small, large, and you got frequencies, big, small, large. All right.
Oh, it is changing. I mean, it's the frequency. It is changing the frequency of the noise function. The problem is that doesn't mean anything to anyone who doesn't understand how the noise function works.
No, I want frequency of biter bases to be super, super, super frequent. I want the good old 15 and 14 death worlds where you just had a sea of red on the map. There is nothing but spawners as far as the eye can see. And it turns out you can get it in 16, but it required a mod. So yeah, for 17, we reworked biter placement using a system similar to what we got in resource placement under control. Size and frequency now acts more like people would expect, with frequency increasing the number of bases and size changing the size of each base. Sounds good. Love this little GUI. I love the fact that the previews are not instant. It says down below that they're not quite instant. There is a recalculation each time you move.
It would have to do the full regenerate. You notice that there's a tick box for auto refresh though.
Where?
Top right hand corner.
Oh wow! No, I missed that entirely. I love it.
So it is actually presumably
So
auto refreshing. It would to start from scratch, but
yeah,
there's
it
obviously
means
something smart going on with it.
you can set all the settings and then hit the refresh till you got something you're sort of happy with. Then tick the auto free refresh and then fine tune things up and down. I really wish that we'd have some sort of indication just on the map with even just like a radius icon for expansion distance. That would be a big one because 7 chunks is 7 chunks. I know how big 7 chunks are in game, and we're looking at a map, but the preview doesn't exactly scale to a known
Yeah, it's
map view
difficult to gauge.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the change. It means that when 17 comes out, I promise you there will be a community map that will be nothing but biters everywhere because I can just set it up straight from the main menu and don't have to install 10 mods to get there.
I'm sure Stinson will love that.
Yeah, in reality, the preview takes a couple of seconds to regenerate after each change, but regeneration part is skipped in this animation because animations are cool and it's Friday Facts and we don't need to know about that. Anyway, if you don't like the relative uniformity across the world placement of biters, there are a number of changes under the hood make it easier for modders to do something different. Placement is now based on named noise expressions, enemy-based frequency, and enemy-based radius, which in turn reference enemy-based intensity. By overriding any of those, a modder could easily create a map where biters are only found at high
elevations.
Yeah, that word. Yep. Or only near water, or correlate enemy placement with that of resources, or any other thing that can be expressed as a function of location. So you could just have the biters wrapped around all the water. And the premise that
it's actually a really cool thing.
Well,
as far as mods go, you could get some really interesting scenarios going.
You could have a really, really interesting map where you could either thread the train tracks, through the landmass right down the middle, avoiding all the water, so hopefully you don't have to deal with biters. But anytime you go near a lake or the sea, in air quotes, you then have to deal with spawners, because obviously biters need to drink too, so they all appear near the water mass, which is the same as humans. Not Factorio engineers. We just need a little lake to start power generation. From there on, we're good.
Only need one spot of water, and that's infinite water source.
Yeah. So yeah, cliffs. Cliffs is another opportunity to control cliffs. If you really like mazes of cliffs, you can set it to high to reduce the number of gaps in cliff faces, or you can turn it way down to make cliffs very rare or completely absent. So again, they did the same with cliffs, and I like the fact that you could have essentially a maze of cliffs that you really force the direction the player has to take, because you can always weave belts up and down cliffs, but the player can't climb up unless there's a gap, and if you turn everything high enough, as you see, you could have a ring of cliffs that the player can't really get out.
Yeah.
Again,
unless they have cliff explosives, which it looks like in that case they probably won't be able to get. There's no oil.
Correct, or some horrible community map designer removes the recipe entirely. Cliffs are based on elevation. You'll have to turn the frequency way up if you want lots of layers, even near the starting lake. So elevation's been in Factorio for quite some time, but it's not really used.
It hasn't been exposed. Oh, the cliffs are generated by elevation, but there's something that hasn't really been exposed the way it is.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's a lot more, I guess, part of the map gen and something that you can actually exploit now, through a number of reasons, a number of different things. So, we go on to biome debugging, and this was one that sort of didn't make sense sometimes. So tile placement is based on range humidity and UX values. Humidity and UX being properties that vary in different points across the world that are suitable for each type of tile. For example, grass is only placed in places with relatively high humidity, and desert, not to be confused with plain old sand, gets placed where UX is high. We've taken to calling these constraints rectangles because when you plot each tile's home turf on a chart of humidity and UX, they're shown as rectangles. And this basically shows how each of the different terrains overlap depending on the humidity being 0 to 1 on the left, and arcs being 0 to 1 on the right.
So is that meant to be Croatian for temperature or something?
I have no idea. Arcs is referenced further down, I think, and maybe we'll get an answer, or maybe somebody in the comments can tell us. All I know is I have seen sand hard up against red desert before, which is like a no-no, and I've seen grass hard up against red desert and sand again, because, again, that's a no-no currently in the current version. Hopefully, you'll have these transitions where you have different types of grass going to dirt, and then either going towards sand or towards desert, depending on the different humidity, I guess, of the different areas, right?
So if you scroll down, we can see the representation of this.
Yeah, having a humidity-arcs-tile chart is all well and good, but doesn't tell the whole story, since the placement also depends on noise layer specific to each tile type, which could also be influenced by user-adjustable auto-place controls. Turn the grass slider up. So further helps us visualize how humidity, arcs, and tile-specific noise and auto-place controls work together. We turn to determine tiles on the map. There are a couple of alternative humidity and arcs generators, which we simply vary them linearly from north, south, east to west, respectively. And you can sort of see we've got like the grass at the bottom, and then we've gone to the red desert on the right and sand on the left. And again, somebody's tweaked something, I would assume, to make the game prefer sand over red desert by sliding that arc scale down.
Presumably the bottom is high moisture, the top is low moisture, the left is low temperature, the right is high temperature.
Yeah, something along those lines.
There's actually scope for anyone who wants snow to fill in that big dirt core.
Oh
so
yeah,
it would be cold and dry.
Yeah,
there's
lots of options now, and now that not only there is something that sort of defines where all these things sort of meet up, it now means mods can quite easily slide in and say, yeah, where dirt 3 through to 6 is, I'm now going to have snow instead. All right.
What's interesting is the next animation down. You notice that on the terrain settings, there's no longer, you don't choose how many of each terrain type. It's just moisture and temperature now.
I think that might be under resources. Because they do mention turn the grass slider up. Right? So again, these are all... This is animated. So maybe this is physically in the game at some point. Well, actually, we've got water and trees right here. So maybe there is more room to modify, like have a preference to grass over the whole map. But yeah, in this one, this map helps us realize that rather than having controls for each different type of resource, it made more sense just to control the moisture and arcs, which is called terrain type in the GUI, because arcs doesn't mean anything. I agree. So yeah,
perfect sense. I bet it was auxiliary.
Yeah, it was some sort of auxiliary control to interface with the map random generation. But yeah, it means that yes, we could go, hey, I want, all wet, swampy sort of environment, and you'll get that for a majority of the map. You probably have to move a long way away before you'd start seeing either sand or desert, which is great because currently in the map generation you could start off somewhere that looks very, very green, but then after you build a base, you're like, okay, I'm surrounded by desert. That was not the plan because my base fit larger than what the preview was on the screen early game. Whereas this, you could be much more controlled with like, no, I really want it to stay green, so sort of forever, because I don't want to deal with the way pollution spreads on deserts and sand. So yeah, another big change in the map generation. Again, I love it. It gives us more control. It sort of explains how things are going to work a little bit better when you are making a map.
It's going to be a lot more intuitive, which
is
really good.
It will be. And really for those that are trying to play something different, and saying, look, yeah, I want an all cliffs map or an all water map, or at least when you change these settings, it's going to make sense, number one. On top of that, with the auto preview, you can see what effect those sliders are going to have very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And go, yep, nope, I'm sliding that to the wrong way. Let's go the other way instead.
A lot of quality of life stuff there.
Yeah. A pet project miner has to put controls in the map generator GUI so that we can select generations for various tile properties, temperature, arcs, humidity, elevation, and map creation time without necessarily needing to involve mods. This was useful for debugging the biome rectangles, but my ulterior motive was to, at least in cases where there are multiple options, show the generator information to players. A couple of reasons for this is it was already possible for mods to override the property generation via presets. We didn't have a place to show the information in the UI, so switching between presets could change hidden variables in not so obvious ways and lead to a lot of confusion, which I've encountered. And I had, that's the important word, dreams of shipping alternative elevation generations in the base game. I really hope that changes to from had to have, or maybe heard it here first, and that means that's now part of the DLC that will come after version 1 comes, whatever that is, and
or maybe it's an 18 thing.
Yeah, or maybe, maybe alternate elevation generators will become in DLC or version 1, or who knows. But yeah, I like the changes. I like the slider bars, everything else. I love it. There's nothing more I can say. Until we get to water placement. So, 16 has been known as the Swampy Mess. Okay, and I've got a picture here, which is the first link in the Friday Facts, which is a swampy mess. There's a little bit of land and a lot of water and lots of little land bridges connecting A to B, and a lot of landfill was used on this particular map.
Thing is that, like in the FF207, actually the first picture is pretty accurate, but the second one I'd never seen that. Anything like that. It's always an island which turns into a swamp.
Okay.
And it just stays swampy.
Yeah, I actually had the post up from Reddit, so it was actually the second link. Yeah,
swamplands are awesome.
Yeah, swamplands are... Yeah, that was early when they started retweaking. So the 207 is when they started first tweaking the map generation for 17. 16, we've had what's known as affectionately the swampy...
Swamp generator.
The swamp mess. So, and a common frame was the world was much more fun to explore in the version 12 days. Now, 12 was before my time, but I remember good resource generation in 14 with lots and lots and lots of biters.
Strictly speaking, the 14 generator is basically the 12 one for the most part.
Okay, so I remember that. I remember 15 being not so great on the resources.
15, in theory, the terrain is similar. I think there were some changes. But you see my map, the Red Belt one.
Yeah. Look, I think 14 to 15, resources got a little bit worse, biters stayed about the same. 16 came out, biters disappeared. They just gone. You couldn't have real death worlds anymore. A death world preset was not even a challenge anymore. And resources, I guess they got slightly better.
Patches got massive, like large low frequency patches got massive, and
they go, if you set the settings 15. Correctly, you got really, really large patches that now let you park a train in the middle of and direct mine into a train.
Although even then, it's a bit here and there. I think 14, 15 really perfected it.
Yeah,
comparatively.
But then, in this one we've had the land connected by little stringy bits of land bridges between another tiny bit of land between another stringy land bridge. It was not fun to go for a default map. You really wanted to customize things or set water to starting area only, which was a really, really common preset. For the
well, I think of it, version 12 generation wasn't perfect though. The land was okay. Anti-Elites actually had a big problem with it because he discovered that there was actually only one map.
Only one map. What, for speedrunning?
No, when you generate a map, it was always the same map. The random seed would just determine where it was on that.
Oh, okay. That's sort of a problem. Yep.
And it turns out that it was because you know how he does the big reroll sims.
Yep, yep.
Eventually, because they started automating it, I think Zulin and all that, they eventually discovered a bunch of maps where they were exactly the same. It's just the spawn was transposed by like 1,000 tiles.
Okay. Well, the other thing we had it must have been 12 or 13, was the starting on the tiny island of 4 tiles.
Yes.
That was
That's
really common as well.
Yeah, that happened all the time.
Yeah. So the map generation had to be redone, and that led us to 16, which had its own problems. It fixed other problems. And then 17 is a whole new version. And we're hoping with all these sliders and everything, we should have a very, very good, robust random map generator. So in 17, we restored the default elevation generator to one that was very similar used by version 12, which means large, sometimes connected lakes, which is much better than the swampy mess, so to speak. The water frequency,
as I say, you see my map. That's a version 12 map.
Yeah.
We're set to the largest scale, so the land masses are enormous, and it's really good.
Yeah, large land masses with large lakes is fine. It's the tiny little bit of lakes here, there, and everywhere where there's no space to build. The water.
You also get the continents that you have to conquer. So you'd set up a strong point, entering a continent, and then you'd have to clear it out, and then hope that biters don't push back in.
Yeah.
While you're clearing it out.
Yeah.
That was a lot more fun.
Water frequency control was confused a lot of people, including myself. It could be interpreted as how much water, when the actual effect was to inversely scale both bodies of water and continents. So the high water frequency actually meant small bodies of water. So for 17, the water frequency and size sliders are being replaced with scale and coverage, which do the same thing, but hopefully in a more obvious way. Large scale means larger land features, while small coverage means more of the map is covered in water. So we've got a couple of new map types. In order to ensure a decent starting area, the elevation generator always makes a plateau there. So you'll never spawn in the middle of an ocean. Yay! One problem solved.
Hooray. I think that's always been it's been a thing for a while.
It's been a thing. It's less and less common as the versions have gone up, but yeah, there's still, even in 16, you've had starting on a tiny island and no stone, therefore no landfill.
In 13, you could spawn without stone at all, anywhere.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
That was a fun one.
And a lake, so you can get but you do start with a lake on your plateau, so you get a power plant running. Depending on what's going on outside of that plateau, sometimes result in a circular ring of cliffs around the starting point, which look very artificial, and we want to reduce that effect. The process of solving the problem created another custom generator for debugging purposes. This one simply generated that starting area plateau in an endless ocean. I don't remember how actually useful this was for debugging, but at one point I directed Twinson to look at it to illustrate the mechanics behind generating the starting area. The rest of the team liked the setting so much that we're making a playable option in 17. So you can pick between normal map type, which resembles that from the 12, and an island, which gives you a single largish island at the starting point, as a slider lets you change the size of the islands. Which again, I really like. It means that you have a limited amount of area in an endless ocean. This is all the resources. Yeah. This is all the biters. This is everything.
Island.
Yeah. Death Island. Sea of red everywhere.
Now, what's interesting also is that I noticed that there's been no name change going through this. So this is still Kvorak at all.
I didn't notice a name change either. There are a couple of names mentioned at the top, and I'm willing to bet that we have changed names. Just somebody might have forgotten to annotate that in.
Possibly.
But we'll see as we go through. So yeah, I like that we can have islands, and maps with multiple starting points will have multiple islands. So we can have PvP maps.
Hooray! On islands.
On islands, yeah. And I'm waiting for the guy on the right-hand side and the one in the south to make a little land bridge and start attacking one another. The guy on the top left, they're safe. They've got twice as many biters to deal with, i.e. some biters. but they are so far from having other players having to deal with other players. Yeah, but PvP Islands looks like fun. It means maybe Clowntown will revive his PvP series, maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe
the problem there is that
PvP is not balanced.
basically everything's been cheesed to death.
And speaking of scale sliders, we're expanding the range from a factor of ±2, the old very low to very high settings, to a factor of 6, shown as 17% to 600%. Previously, the variance was stored internally at one of 5 discrete options, but as the recent terrain changes have made actual numeric multipliers more meaningful in most contexts, e.g. the number of ore patches directly proportional to the value of the frequency slider, rather than just being used to vaguely relate to it somehow, we're switching to storing them as numbers. This has a side effect: if you don't mind editing some JSON, you'll be able to create maps with values outside the range provided by the GUI sliders. So you could have a map with multiplied by 1,000 bytes. Done. Map generator will just take it in and spit it back out. Mods will be able to add their own map types. The map type drop down too. If you really like the shape of landmasses in 16 and you want to be able to continue creating new maps with it, please let us know on the forum. So if you want swampy maps, go down to the go to the Friday Facts, scroll to the bottom, click the forum, and say, I want swampy mess, please. And hopefully,
if you actually legitimately want it.
Yeah, if you actually legitimately want it. And hopefully we will just make a mod, or maybe they'll even just increase it and include it as part of the base code. And there'll just be a map picker there from normal to islands to swampy mess. I want it to be called swampy mess. I think that's the most important thing, because I'm waiting for 6 months from now when somebody's down in the comments section. I'm like, I'm looking at picking a new map and my choices are normal, islands, or swampy mess. What's a swampy mess? And I'll get to reply. And yeah. And then we got high-res accumulators.
Snuck this one through. It's a tiny little one.
It's a tiny, it's like right at the bottom of all the word text, and at least text had plenty of pictures, unlike the other week. So the design of the accumulator has always been good. The 4 very visible cylinders looking like giant batteries, Tesla poles and electric beams, perfectly telegraphed its function in terms of style and readability. That's why at the high-res conversion, we're very careful about keeping this entity as it was. The only thing that was a bit disturbing for some are the power poles crossing to each other when more than one accumulator is placed in a row.
Oh yeah, that.
So we
I
decided
never noticed it. It didn't really bother me.
I didn't notice it until I got to this picture. So we decided to fix it or break it. All depends on which way you're looking at it. The rest of the work was making the entity compatible for the actual look of the game, but essentially accumulators are still the same. So basically they look exactly as they were before. And here is the version 1 ones, which, yeah, you can see their little Tesla things at the corners cross over on the left to right. Not in the up to down, just in the left to right. And I never noticed. I honestly had no idea.
You never noticed.
No, looking at it now, I'm like, well, that's obviously how they get power from one accumulator to the next accumulator.
They cross each other.
Yeah, they cross each other. They're linked up in series, right?
Sure.
Yeah, see? Seems logical to me. Yeah, it's a graphical change. They look way better, I'll give them that.
Way cleaner. You can tell how old the old one was.
Yeah, look.
That's an old one.
It's an old.
I think that's the original graphics.
I would be willing to bet it is. It's an old tile graphic artwork.
It's one of the last of the originals.
I
I always made a point of wall because that wall was its original graphic.
Yeah, there's still got a couple left. They're not fully up to version 2 graphics. But I am curious what other ones are going to come before 17 comes out. What other ones are going to come during 17? And if we go right back to the start of the Friday Facts, they did also mention sounds. I'm really curious what sounds get updated, because all the binders are going to probably have new sound effects. We already know the artillery's got new sound effects. And
I think the thing there is, are they actually in the game yet?
I don't know. They're all things we're going to find out. Maybe, possibly, during February. there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. It's possible. It also might not happen.
We'll see.
But yeah, that's it for this week's Friday Facts. It's long, it's in depth.
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. Togos did all the map gen, and yeah, he didn't obviously title his section. Oh no, he did. There it is.
He did?
Yeah. Yeah, Togos does map.
Oh, there it is.
There
you go.
And then Albert and I'm not going to bastardise the name. I'll have Windows bastardise the name. Hang on.
Ernestes.
There you go. Ernestes. No. Chrome pronounced it different. It's in the video. You can watch it later. Because you won't hear, obviously, my Chrome talking. Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting Friday Facts. We're really, really curious when 17 is actually going to drop.
Feb 30.
Yeah. Hey, that means I can tell the missus that I'm on Feb 30. I'm going to be flat out. She'll be pleased as punch.
Called it.
Yeah.
Angie called it, I think.
Look, I think we all called it when they said, was it originally January?
Yeah, January. They said it late January, and I had high hope. But then the more it's later on, the more it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I think I called it right from square one. I said
actually.
March, maybe Feb, and look, it gets here when it gets here. There was a lot of conversation in my Discord recently about who's hoping for more releases and who's hoping for version 1. I'm like, I really don't mind. I really don't mind if they...
Just any release at this point.
Yeah, and lots of little
updates
could be interesting, maybe not. I don't know. It's going to be different to have lots of little updates, but then again, there's lots of other games I play that have lots of little updates that occasionally break your game entirely, which I'm not a fan of. Lots of little updates. Oxygen Not Included is a prime example, with every 2 months.
Yes.
Every 2 months, take your game, throw it out the window, and start a new one because they've done something to just scrap it. And if Factorio did the same, I think I'd probably stop playing, or I'd stop updating. That would be my answer. I'd stop updating. So it's a fine line, and I don't know. Rube's taking the decision of we're going to have significant major updates, which has worked well for them up until this point. I think the only thing is this one's been a little bit long in the tooth since the last significant update.
Yeah, it's even been a long time since the minor incremental up.
Yeah, it has been. Anyway, I think we're going to call it here for this Friday Facts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. Anything else you want to add, Mojo? Quick?
Nope, we've covered everything.
Alright, so we'll see you next week. Bye.